So here's the thing. Boys are around 3 times more likely to receive an ADHD diagnosis than girls. Let that sink in. It's part of why a lot of professional working women are coming to understand and discover that they have ADHD as adults. Now, I wanted to talk with someone about this, so I spoke with Pippa Simou. Pippa Simou has more than 20 years experience in education and now works as a specialist ADHD coach with women and girls. Her career dramatically pivoted when she discovered that she has ADHD. Since then, she's been on a mission to help ADHD women understand the pitfalls and the challenges that are particular to them. So if you're after powerful insights and strategies for how to manage ADHD and be at your best, you're going to want to hear this conversation. First of all, thank you for joining me anyway, as I was saying before, Pippa. One of the things I was really keen and curious to ask you about, I know you was kind of I guess your own background in terms of how you emerged into an understanding of ADHD. I understand that, was it through your son's diagnosis? I wonder, can you walk us through the process? What was that experience like?
Definitely. So the journey began with my son. He was a handful, maximum boy, I thought. And my husband would say, well, I was just like that when I was little. And I'd think, well, you turned out all right, so fingers crossed kind of thing. But the maximumness got him into quite a lot of bother. Eventually, a teacher who had a child with ADHD said to me, I think that's what it is. I knew what those letters stood for. I knew I had some kids in my class with that thing, but I didn't really know what it was. And I said to her, have you got anything I can read? And she'd photocopied a chapter from a book. There wasn't even a question. It was very, very clear. He had all of that going on. So we then pursued that and he was diagnosed. During that time, I thought, well, clearly I'm typical and he gets it from his dad because they're so similar, right? I had to stop teaching because it wasn't flexible enough to be where I needed to be. So I joined the charity, became a coach and a trainer, and then attended some conferences because, well, now I realise that's ADHD hyperfocus. And at a conference, I came across some guys with some software to measure ADHD symptoms. And I thought, oh, how interesting. That would be really helpful for my charity. And they asked me if I wanted to go on the software. And I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be really good because then I'd know how it would feel for someone to do it. So I did it. I got a very high score. And then I was like, oh, I would have always said, I don't have ADHD because I'm not like my son. You know, I'm not like that. Right. So right. I don't have it. I did know about myself always that I didn't fit, that I had to work a lot harder than other people to get the same outcome. I did also know that I struggled with inattention, and I did also know I was impulsive. When I'm saying all of this out loud now, I'm thinking, what a bloody idiot. How did I not see it? But I really didn't. I just thought I was less. I was just a bit crap, a bit not good enough, you know. In a way, it was such a relief, actually. Right. To go, oh, well, that's why then. That's why. You send your kids to school on inset day and why you forget to pick up your kid from camp and you thought he was coming home tomorrow and he's not, he's coming home today. You know, all these things that you beat yourself up over. Women definitely do this. We compare ourselves all the time. So as in the earliest stages of our memory, we are trying to be like the other girls, teenagers, women, students, mums, for my case, teachers. And always, when I measured myself, I came up short because I always felt like I'm not enough, not good enough. Kept thinking they'll find out in a minute how shit I am, and I'm going to be in trouble. But
right,
yeah.
I mean, I know that you coach and work with women more specifically as well around ADHD. I mean, what are some of the challenges that you think are more particular in the experience of it for women, and especially in a work context? Like, how do people manage to navigate their ADHD?
Where we tend to come unstuck is on the detail of it. So the paperwork, the processes, the meetings, but the actual delivery and execution of our work, we tend to be brilliant. You know, I was an exceptional teacher. I know I was. But I know that I was annoying to my colleagues sometimes, where I forgot to do what I was supposed to do, or be where I was supposed to be, or turned up on the wrong day. And it tends to be there that we come undone. And that's a horrible feeling, because those things are apparently so simple for everybody else, but they're so hard for us to get right. And that's the problem. And we feel a lot of shame around those things. And often when I meet my clients, it's the shoulds. There's a lot of shoulding going on, a lot of I should be this, I should be doing that. But my work with them is largely about examining that should and looking at that should and questioning, really, when you have a brain like this, should you be doing that? Should you be able to do that? Is that the best use of your time and talent and energy? But yeah, it tends to be, it's those small things that for other people are very straightforward, but for us it feels really heavy. And they're hard things to admit, because we imagine all the other women have got it nailed.
I mean, if you was trying to pin down maybe like, I don't know, like 3 to 4 of the main challenges that people tend to struggle with in this area, it sounds like one of them is around the whole, I guess that comparison and carrying the weight of these shoulds, these expectations that we have over ourselves in terms of like what we feel like you should be able to do or achieve or whatever the case might be. What would be 3 or 4 others that you feel like people really experience in this area around their work?
It would one huge thing is managing and understanding time. So often we're experiencing something called time blindness, and it's called blindness because it is that bad. So we don't feel 5 minutes or an hour. We can't feel that passing. And also we've got no clue about what takes 5 minutes and what takes an hour. With the time thing as well, often we're late for things, and then that means people think we don't care and that we're kind of shoddy. We're not. It's really hard for us. We also have difficulty with, so it's not that we can't concentrate, just to be clear. We definitely can, but it's interest-led. We will want to give our time and energy to the juicy, interesting stuff, and then we just kind of hope the other stuff might go away and do it yourself, maybe. It just won't look. So our executive function is typically impaired to one degree or another. And that is contextual according to our interest as well, which makes us look a bit like we're choosing. But it isn't. It's not a choice. Like I just can't help it. I just am there. So procrastination's huge. Activation, getting going on the task. That can feel like full on Mount Everest work. I've got to get all my climbing gear on. I've got to exercise, train, prepare, just to open a document. Just like something. It could feel like that bad. The idea of getting going. 9 times out of 10, once we've got going, we're like, what was the problem? That was easy.
Okay.
But it's the idea. It's the getting going. So that's big.
Once you're actually into a task, you can sort of like have that momentum and get immersed into it. It's just the actual.
Yeah, that's it. So I'm often telling my clients simple things, just like, for example, make your bed, and you've done an actual thing. Look at that. That's one thing you've done this morning. Every time we do a thing, we get a bit of dopamine. Okay, I'm not saying making your bed gets you loads of dopamine, but it gets you some. It's a complete thing. Yeah. That's what you kind of have to start your day with, this kind of momentum. Right, I've made my bed. I've made my breakfast, and look at that. The stuff's in the dishwasher. I've done a thing. I'm on my way. It depends what's going on, but sometimes it's good to start on the easy work of the day, like, I don't know, the low-lying fruit. With ADHD, you've got to have plan A, B, and C ready to match your mood, match your environment. So sometimes I'm eating a frog and sometimes I'm doing the low-lying fruit. But I understand. I understand that now. And I can lean into it and use my tools effectively. But yeah. getting going is tough. Oh, and actually, yeah, oh my God, how did I not say this? Emotional regulation. Yes. Probably every adult with ADHD. So that's not measured in the diagnostic process, emotional regulation, but we all have massive emotions, really big ones, and we move between them very quickly. We struggle hugely with criticism and rejection, like it's probably painful, it's unbearable, and then that can make us behave like, so for example, Pippa's way of managing that would be people pleasing. And to be fair, that has not got me into too much trouble, but it could have done.
I wonder whether there's almost like a kind of like an inherent creativity required to actually navigate ADHD itself. I don't know. I'd love to know what you think about this.
When I came across that for the first time, I was like, well, no, because I'm not an artist. I don't paint. In my head, that's what creative was. But now I appreciate, in a broader sense, creativity's, thinking about things in a new way. Problem solving, solution finding, being open to doing it differently, I guess, and not just buying a planner or getting up an hour earlier. Do you know what I mean? That type of thing. So yes, I think we're all pretty creative beings, and actually lots of us do turn up in creative industries, in filmmaking, performance, in art, in writing. And the other thing I've noticed about the women I work with, often in kind of like nurturing roles or healing roles, like this sort of thing. So teachers, doctors, therapists, personal trainers, like that.
I don't know if you came across this. There's like a study at I think it was at Cambridge University not too long ago around dyslexia. And they were talking about, I guess, kind of having more of a strength-based perspective of dyslexia now in terms of understanding, actually, there's a lot of qualities here that would be, they're basically charting the reason why people who are dyslexic tend to gravitate towards certain professions, let's say entrepreneurship, some artistic professions as well, things to do with discovery and exploration. And I wonder whether there is something similar around ADHD.
Basically, dyslexia is a difference in the brain, and also ADHD is a difference in the brain. So our brains are wired differently. We are literally made differently. If you run me through an MRI, my brain lights up in a different way to other people's. There is definitely a place for us. And I work with girls as well. So I go into a school 1 day a week, and I work with girls diagnosed with ADHD. And that's a really important message to give them, that there is a place for us. We were made for a purpose, a reason. We are still here. The reason they're finding it hard is that they've been popped into an environment that wasn't made for them, doesn't suit them, but there isn't an alternative. Dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, autism, ADHD, this is all neurodiversity. And I don't like that ADHD is disorder. I think it's a different flavour of humanness, and we have something to bring to the party.
What do we get wrong about how to create environments, either in education or at work, which actually allows people with ADHD or other kinds of neurodivergence actually as well to really flourish? What are some of the rigid parameters that might be in place that actually hinder people from being able to express the fullness of their talents if they have ADHD?
I suppose it's a lack of flexibility is a huge problem, and this reluctant, this kind of, well, we've always done it this way, so we're going to carry on, and there is this kind of message sometimes that when I was at school there weren't any ADHD people and no one had autism. How can we explain this now? Well, of course they were at your school, you just didn't know. They probably didn't know what was going on with them. And just because, I don't know, maybe you're autistic and you've flourished, doesn't mean that everybody can fight that fight and get to where you are right now. Lots of us will need our hand holding through the journey. And if we have got our hand held and we are met where we are, then it should be, as we get into adulthood, that we can successfully advocate for ourselves. We understand ourselves sufficiently that we can say, well, Micah, this is what I need if I'm going to work for your company. This, I'm going to need a flexible start. I'm going to need an exercise ball to sit on. I'm going to need you to check in with me at the end of every day to keep me on track, and also reassure me that I'm doing the right thing, because I may have gone down a rabbit hole and I'm frightened that I'm going to do that again. When we talk about autism, there's a phrase: if you've met a person with autism, you've met a person with autism. So don't imagine that your next person with autism is going to experience it the way this one does. I think it's the same for ADHD and probably dyslexia as well. Like, you have to, and it's not like meeting the condition, it's meeting me where I am, working with me on how I can be the best version of myself in your company, your industry, or whatever it is we're doing.
What tools would you recommend for somebody who might be arriving at a diagnosis later on in life as an adult, coming to realize, well, I have this thing called ADHD. What do I do next? What kind of habits or strategies can I employ? What would you say to somebody in that kind of scenario?
I would say it's not one thing. I would say it's about developing a toolkit. It depends where the challenge is coming from. So if it's workplace challenges, then you probably need things around executive function, procrastination, activation, short-term memory, things like that. But if it's around relationships, then maybe it's going to be around mindfulness and grounding and being in the moment. Lots of adults with ADHD have developed mental health difficulties because they haven't realised they've got ADHD, so they might be experiencing clinical depression and anxiety. So those things need to be identified and treated. Like you said at the beginning of your question, there's no sort of catch-all approach. What I deliver a workshop. I do it for free, but once a term, on living well as a woman with ADHD. So in that workshop, the things that I talk about to live well, I talk about having cheerleaders, like surrounding yourself with a crew of people who are going to lift you, because people have the power either to lift or crush us. And if we've got crushers, we need to put them in the distance. I say it's about, I'm not great at meditation, but it can be really helpful for ADHD. Mindfulness is my go-to, because people with ADHD are often stuck ruminating on something that has happened that they can't do anything about now, or they're projecting forward, worried about what is coming. Mindfulness will bring you to this moment, which is the only moment I can actually do anything about. So self-awareness, understanding what is different about you and how that's showing up, and then auditing, I suppose, and thinking, okay, well, should I keep struggling with this thing that's, I haven't been able to do for 10 years? Or should I pay someone to do that for me? Or should I just say, that's not happening now, and just leave? Like, having that sort of working through that, ditching the shoulds, basically, is really helpful. We are lower in dopamine and serotonin than other people. Exercise generates both of those. And because it's generated through exercise, don't ask me why, it stays like we experience the effect of it for longer. So other things give us dopamine and serotonin, but it doesn't hang around so long. So if you can start your day with your heart rate up, the rest of the day is likely to go a lot better.
Right.
So there are quite a few basic things that are good for every human being, but for people with ADHD, you make it happen.
Pippa, thank you so much. It's been so enlightening and illuminating and interesting as well, all at the same time, and super, super helpful. I know this conversation is going to be of great value to a lot of our members, as well as people beyond our members as well. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Let me know in the comments. And as ever, subscribe, like the video, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future content, and I will see you soon.